Great. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm Mark Templeton. I'm the director of the Abrams Environmental Law Clinic. If I've got one message for you today, it's take a clinic. All of these clinics that you're hearing about today, the other sessions are incredible experiences for you to take what you've been learning in the classroom, take what you've been learning in your summer jobs, and apply it to serve clients and to get a lot of coaching and supervision and guidance in the way that you can only get through a clinical program, rarely in a summer experience, and sometimes in your first job or not. But when people take a clinic, they learn a tremendous amount, whether it's litigation skills, whether it is transactional skills. You learn about what matters to your client. How do you learn about that? How do you advocate for your client's interests? How do you work with your fellow lawyers on your team? How do you work with opposing counsel? How do you work with those you're trying to persuade, whether it's judges, legislators, administrative officials? And so whatever clinic, please do a clinic. That is my bottom line. We are also all available, whether we're here today or at any time. We are here teaching clinics because we want to be teaching you. We obviously want to be advocating in the mission areas that we're working on, but why are we here instead of being at like NGOs or being at companies or whatever it may be? It's because we want to work with you. So those are my key messages. So it's me, and I have a fellow Jake Schuhart, who's actually not here. He's actually helping to lead a meeting that I'm going to need to go to in a minute, because I have students conducting cross-examinations tomorrow of some high-level utility executives. And so we're taking advantage of every moment we can to prepare for that. The mission of the Environmental Law Clinic is to solve some of the most pressing problems locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. We challenge illegal polluters. Congress, in its wisdom in the 1970s, realized that it couldn't trust the rest of the federal government or the states to actually enforce environmental laws. So in the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, they gave citizens the right to sue when the government was not enforcing the law. So we sue polluters. We fight to make sure they've got stricter limits on the discharges that they have. We sue governments when governments are not enforcing the law. So that's just one of a lot of what we do. But we also advocate for bigger changes, right? To make sure that the laws and regulations themselves are stricter and also even more rational, right? Sometimes arguing for market-based solutions as well. That includes the innovative approaches for improving the environment. So we're roughly 75, 25-ish% kind of litigation, policy, and other work as well in our clinic, but every clinic is different. These are just some of the environmental organizations we work with. We work with groups of 2 or 3 people living on top of a highly contaminated Superfund site, to small groups of people that have gotten together about a regional issue, to some of the biggest national and international NGOs in the country and in the world. We have 4 major areas of focus. We're going to talk more about the clean energy work in a minute. Michelle David, who is the current president of the Environmental Law Society, current clinic student, former summer clinic student, is going to talk a bit about some of that work. In a true clinic fashion, I drafted her just before this presentation. So you never know when you're going to get the opportunity to talk about your great work. So we're going to talk more about the first point in a minute. What we've also done is we've challenged coal-fired power plants in the United States. We've challenged coal mines on federal lands. We've challenged some of the rules that the government has promulgated about greenhouse gas emissions. As I mentioned, we sue companies like the U.S. Steel facility, Trump Tower downtown, for not following the environmental laws, putting too much pollutant into Lake Michigan, for example. We work with environmental justice communities. So we represent residents who live on the USS Lead Superfund site in East Chicago, Indiana, about 14 miles from here. 3,000 people lived on this site for about 50 years. And then our clients found out about this about 6 years ago. We sued EPA. We got they, with our support, got a better, faster, more thorough cleanup than would have been the case otherwise. And now we're challenging other hazardous waste recycling facilities that are immediately adjacent to where they live. And then for those interested in kind of more animal issues, we also work for getting some species listed as threatened or endangered. The Fish and Wildlife Service said didn't meet that qualification. So I'm going to talk, actually, Michelle, are you ready to come up? Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to give a little bit of background. So in Michigan, we represent a group called Solidarity, and they fight against the monopoly utility. And it really is kind of a case of David versus Goliath here. Okay. Michelle, do you want to kind of take it over?
Yeah. Okay. So, like Mark said, David versus Goliath. So
can you come over here and then you're in the camera?
Sure.
Great.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Mark. So up here we have a slide that's talking about what DTE is. So it's the electric utility company that is one of the companies that we are challenging. You can see their service territory in the dark blue. They serve about 2.2 million electric customers throughout southeastern Michigan, and clearly they have a lot of revenue. So big company. This is Wayne County, and the red area is Detroit. And specifically, Solidarity, the clients that we work with, are based out of Highland Park, Michigan. So this is like within the Detroit metro area. You can see that the racial makeup is heavily Black. It's also heavily low income. And Solidarity is rooted in this community and does a lot of their community organizing in that area. So Solidarity itself was founded by Jackson Coppell when Highland Park, Michigan. A lot of their streetlights were going to be repossessed, gutted essentially, and removed. And Jackson Coppell organized with his community members to fight DTE on the removal of these streetlights. They wanted to make sure that they were getting lighting that was reliable, that was in their community, that made their neighborhood safe. And so they organized to challenge DTE to get community lighting back through a lot of the community, and using solar energy is their goal. You can see here some pictures of some of the organizing they do. So they're a community-based organization that does a lot of community organizing. So it's not just litigation work that they do, but also they have this other public-facing component of their work, trying to pressure the legislature in Michigan, as well as DTE, the company itself, as well as the Michigan Public Service Commission that makes a lot of decisions over how much residents are charged in their bills month to month. Yeah, so here's the Michigan Public Service Commission commissioners, I guess. And essentially what we do on the Michigan Energy team as students is we intervene in proceedings at the Michigan Public Service Commission. So essentially, we might have a case where DTE requests like $400 million from ratepayers, from people in Michigan, and they request that money so that they can pay for like the service that they provide through electricity, and also to like increase rates on ratepayers, I guess. So we intervene in proceedings where DTE requests a bunch of money and tries to raise residential rates. And we try to advocate for a host of different things related to energy access and energy justice. So for example, DTE in one of its cases was requesting to convert a coal facility to a natural gas plant. One of the things we argued for is to instead just retire the coal plant altogether and not convert it to natural gas, not prolong fossil fuel use longer. We also fight for the faster retirement of coal power plants in general as well, and hopefully to move to solar energy, wind, other renewable sources. We also fight for community solar. So for those who don't know, there are a lot of people who live in like single family homes who may want to install rooftop solar on their home. That's something that people in a lot of single family homes can like afford to do usually, and it's easy to do because they own their own property. For renters, however, people who live in multi unit buildings, it's much harder to get any solar options. So one thing we advocate for is community solar, which is like off-site solar farms that people can subscribe to get clean energy, even if they don't own a home and they just rent.
So we've achieved a bunch of gains, right? We've gotten the DTE to give $1 million and to support some community solar projects. So this is really about energy and environment and equity. That's the reason I love this work. Students have engaged a bunch of work, right? Recommending strategies to the client, participate in stakeholder processes, discovery. They're doing cross-examination tomorrow of these high-level executives. And they've also led settlement discussions on behalf of our client. Michelle, we've got like 30 seconds left. What's the best part of this work in your clinical experience?
Okay, yes. I would say very quickly, like, it's amazing to go through all of these like litigation steps. You literally get to go through like discovery, writing testimony, writing briefing. We drafted so much like student-led with the support of Mark and the faculty, but a lot of it is all like student ownership and student-led work, which is really amazing to help me grow. I love that we get to work with like community-based organizations who like have community-informed perspectives and like advocate for their needs, and we can help them advocate further. And I also just love that, like, I don't know, I think it's really important to advocate for energy justice, energy democracy, to make sure people can afford their bills day to day, and to be a small part of that is truly like a great gift, and I'm really grateful that I could be a part of this team.
Great.
Yeah.
Happy to answer questions at any point. Thanks so much.